Hi, my name is Michael, and Johannes asked me to talk to you about his not so recent project iPhoneLive, just as he asked me 10 years ago to participate in it. iPhoneLive is still relevant as an artwork today, but more importantly, it is a very interesting snapshot of a particular point in time containing a lot of discursive fragments. The introduction of the iPhone back in 2007 has been one of the most remarkable events in recent tech history. It really kickstarted the smartphone revolution, which changed the lives of almost everybody on Earth within a very small couple of years. It really changed everything. It changed how we learn, how we cook, how we travel, how we plan, how we communicate, how we love even. So most of these changes were not obvious even back in 2012 when Johannes started his iPhoneLive performances. He must have had a very good grasp of the future when he chose the iPhone as the center stage. And he got no fear, obviously. The iPhone screenshots that he put out there let the public have a glimpse into his life constantly. Performances where artists put themselves under constant surveillance are new though, but in most of these artworks it is the body that is on display. In Johannes' version, it is not the body but something different, the display itself. It is the interface between him and the machine, which is a completely new space of intimacy that has just emerged. And it is arguably a more sensitive space than the usual gaze on the body itself. And that is because back then we were all in the process of becoming cyborgs. We amended our brains, even our consciousness maybe, by our phones. Our phones learned to keep track of our relationships, our plans, our lives really. We are now unable to think without our phones. Hence, publishing your iPhone screenshots really is a form of publishing your cognitive thought processes. It's really a kind of real-time mind publishing. Once I asked a friend if I could have his phone just to look something up, and he asked me back if he could use my penis for peeing. It was that intimate to him. You can really feel this intimacy when you scroll through the iPhoneLive website. You can watch Johannes scrolling through Facebook or formulating a text. Will he send it? You can see him Googling stuff. What interests him? What drives him? You can see him navigating and ask yourself, where is he going? What he's doing there? And it is really like being a part of the inner monologue of a cyborg. On the other hand, of course, it would be naive to assume that what we are seeing is not staged. Johannes knows about his audience and he calculates his presence. He steers his archive. It's a performance after all, which does not mean that everything is fake and there's no real intimacy involved. There certainly is. It's more like a play, and Johannes is the actor. And with good actors, you really can't assess which emotion is really real, because a good actor always puts himself into the actor. But even the stage is staged. Johannes, in order to make this iPhoneLive thing happen, had to jailbreak his iPhone. And you need to consider the context of this decision. Apple, by introducing the iPhone, also introduced a new paradigm in the history of operating systems. Until then, all operating systems were interface platforms, which means that the vendor would only define the interfaces and the developers would code against them. And Apple, with the iPhone, changed that forever. The Apple App Store is really a centralized database and for developers to get your app into the App Store, you have to apply to Apple, and Apple has to approve you. So it's really like a service platform where the platform provider has the power to control the access, just like Tinder or Uber or Facebook. So in 2012, jailbreaking your iPhone was still a thing. And with a jailbroken iPhone, you could install every app you want, with Apple's approval or not. It really changed the iPhone back to an interface platform, a real computer, a universal machine. Unfortunately, this practice has become unpopular. While it is still possible to jailbreak some of the older iPhones, it is really rare that people do it anymore. But why is that? Is it because of Apple's constant fight against this practice, which led to ever more closed operating systems and even chip architectures? Or is it because of the convenience of living in a golden cage? Apple chose to close off its operating system for a reason, and one of the reasons was certainly to keep malicious software off the platform. And Johannes' software for iPhoneLive would have fallen into this category. I mean, a software that basically grabs your screen and publishes it on a server is that kind of stuff that kept Steve Jobs awake at night. And it's also the foundation of Apple's tremendous power. Everybody in the tech industry and almost all developers of the world really need to get along with Apple, since no one can afford not to be on the iPhone. Apple and Google's Android, for that matter, are really platforms of platforms. They are the conscious and controlling infrastructure of the entire tech industry. But there's also more and more pushback. Some companies, most prominently Epic Games, which brought us Fortnite, are suing Apple over its power. And yes, they might have a legal point here, but I wonder how it really does affect us users. How does it help us? I feel like jailbreaking your iPhone is a better option. Having the possibility of jailbreaking your iPhone and having that around as a common practice would really change the calculus of this situation and really empower users against Apple. Which brings me back to the discussion we had back in the days concerning privacy, which the iPhoneLive project was also part of. Some of us, me included, argued that privacy is also part of the cage. The demand for privacy really incentivizes or legitimizes structures of control, of information control. And in order to be really free, we have to get rid of these dependencies. We have to get rid of these controlling structures and to communicate openly and freely and live openly and freely beyond privacy. And of course, that was kind of naive at that time, but it was also not entirely wrong. It just didn't hold up to reality, I guess. But I, for one, am very grateful for a project like iPhoneLive and projects like this that allowed us to take a glimpse into an alternative reality, a reality where open relationships and public living were possible beyond the golden cage.